Okay, for today's video, I'm doing a 1-year update on my very first video that I put out on the Millennial Dad channel. And it was a review of a kid's smartwatch called the Octopus Watch by a company called Joy. For those of you who may be new to this channel or haven't seen any of my other videos, basically I'm a millennial, I'm a dad, father of 2, and so this channel really covers tech reviews, it does toy reviews, some health and wellness, but all of it is with kind of this dad millennial twist. So that's kind of really the whole reason behind the channel. So if you check out some of my other videos after this one, please feel free to subscribe and be notified when more content comes out. Now, I personally backed the smartwatch a number of years ago and got the item once it came off the production line and everything. So if you want to check out my full review of the actual smartwatch, I'll put some links in the description below. You can check it out. But for today's video, I'm going to do a 1-year update to see if this smartwatch is still a good buy in 2018. Let's check it out. Okay, so just in case you missed the review video where I last left the Octopus Watch, my take on it was I really loved the concept. It was great. No other company out there was really tackling the kind of the ecosphere of kids' smartwatches, specifically from a reminder and kind of this whole idea of getting kids to be more responsible by creating task lists and having that built into the smartwatch. So it wasn't, you can't connect to the internet, you can't play games, anything like that. It was really strictly just for kids to learn to tell time, 1, and then 2, also to be able to take more responsibility around the house, do chores, do their activities, do schoolwork, and get kids more locked in a routine. Which studies show that kids who are on a routine, they tend to be able to focus better and perform better all around. So that's really the whole premise of the smartwatch. So I left it where for me it was a great concept, but the build quality was lacking. I went through one model of the smartwatch before they sent me a new one. It was a weeks and weeks long process, and so it was kind of a big hassle. But so today's video we're going to take a look and see if we got it from my son, and we're going to see if he's still using it 1 year later. Okay, I was actually in the process of getting ready to do this video, and guess what? So Joy, of course the company that made the smartwatch, sent a big email out with this massive firmware update for the watch and its app. And they added some new functionality to the watch itself. So I took a step back and kind of regathered my thoughts before I put this video together, and I really wanted to test drive this new firmware update for the watch to see if it keeps it viable for 2018. Okay, first up was battery life. The 3 days battery life is what was promised from the smartwatch, and that's what I experienced through our own use. And so with this firmware update, they're estimating 5 times longer battery life. So we're going to test it out and put that through its paces to really see if it's going to last 5 times longer than it does now. I mean, that's what, 15 days? So we'll see how if it really lasts that long. Also, the way they interact with the Bluetooth connectivity on the smartwatch, on how you actually pair it with your smartphone and how you actually sync it and be able to share schedules and things like that. So that's been improved now. Before, man, that process was so frustrating for me. For me personally, it was one of the most frustrating processes of having this smartwatch was the way that it paired with the Bluetooth. You had to either unplug it or unplug it from its power source while tapping on a sync button on the app. And you had to do that in the right order and to get the timing right. You only had a few seconds before it expired. Or you had to hold down the button on the smartwatch itself for like 3 seconds and then see if that would kick in the sync. And man, it was a hassle. That was the one point of frustration for me constantly for the smartwatch. That, as a parent, turned me off to it because it was that little piece of it was difficult to get. And I'm a pretty tech savvy guy. But for some reason it just wasn't working right. The sync was really hard to put together. So with this new firmware update, they've changed the button function. So now all you have to do is tap the button twice on the smartwatch and hit the button on your smartphone to sync it with the app, and boom, you're done. I've tried it and it works flawlessly. It's fantastic. That is, I mean, for me personally, that's such a huge, the tiny little thing, but it's such a huge impact on how, as a parent, we operate and make sure that we can make sure this smartwatch is working properly and the schedule is working correctly and it's scheduled properly, and that little piece will just make it that much more effective for parents. That's one less barrier as a parent to be able to have this smartwatch on my child's wrist. So that's a huge plus. They've also added a stopwatch and how the menu functions and how you can actually scroll through the menu using the button. So all that's kind of changed a little bit. Okay, so since the update, I've updated the software on the watch. I've updated the app on my phone. My son's been using it for about 4 or 5 days now. I can tell you that the battery life is holding pretty well. I mean, we've used it for about 4 days now, and I mean it's barely gone down about 20%. So I mean it's done really well to hold its battery. So we'll see if that continues to go for the next few days. But as far as the use and the usability, is it still good 1 year later? I think with this update, it's big, it's huge. I think it definitely keeps it viable for another year. Kids and families, everyone's getting ready to go back to school. It's so important to get kids back into that routine, especially when school starts. The Octopus Watch is marketed for 3 years and up. So I mean, of course, you know your child's maturity level best, right? So you make the best decision that you think is right. For me personally, I got it for my son when he was 5. I think he wasn't ready for it just yet. I mean, he did wear it for a month or two once we finally got worked all the kinks and got a working smartwatch. And he kind of really lost interest in it. And honestly, as a parent, it was really on me. I really stopped charging it. I still have trouble charging. That's another big issue for me, is the charging cable and the connectors. It's just very sensitive if you don't do it just right. At least on my watch. Hopefully, with this new battery update, maybe that'll be less of an issue for me in the future, so we'll see how that goes. But since we've done the update, he's been wearing it, and he's been checking it. Of course, he knows his numbers and he can tell time and things like that. So it's a good way for him to kind of see where we are in the day. Well, I've got it programmed for his activities, and when he's at daycare right now because it's summer. And then as we get ready for school, I'll program his school schedule in there. Since the update, and I've been putting it back on him since I've really been back into the watch. He's been wearing it. He's been really active with it. He's taking care of it. We had a conversation about it, so about how to take care of the watch properly. So it goes back to your own child's maturity level. I really think this is a good smartwatch for kids 6 to about, I would say, like 10, 11 years old. Okay, so final decision. Do I think this watch is still viable in 2018? I think it is. I mean, like I said before at the beginning, there's really nothing else out there that matches and really performs the way it does, and the simplicity of it in order to create schedules, and the firmware update is a huge boost. I think that'll help with battery level, of course, and the ease of the Bluetooth sync, so that's going to be great. I definitely think it's still a viable smartwatch in 2018. If you saw my first review, my full review of the smartwatch, I was really not a huge fan. But since they've developed and they've added software updates and they've done some things here and there from the company standpoint, I would give them a second chance. I would take a look at this watch, and right now here I believe it's a viable option for 2018. Well, that does it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this content, be sure to hit the subscribe button at the bottom. I greatly appreciate it. Hit that like button as well. If you have any comments about any other tech that you'd like to see reviewed, any toys, products, anything like that you want to see from a parenting perspective, feel free to leave that information in the comments below. I'll be sure to check those out and respond to as many as I can. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.